Well, as we get to the end of the year, this would be the time that we should maybe set aside business and let's talk about good news stories. Let's talk about the wonderful things that are happening in the world. And to help me do that, I have literally a legend from the wealth management business. I have Chris Snyder, and he's the author of 52 Plus Good News Stories. This is going to make your day. So let's be honest. It's been a bit of a crazy year. And as we head into the holiday season, I think you're happy to probably take a minute, take a breath, and enjoy some time with both your friends and family. And what I was thinking is, I thought it would be nice to end the year with some good news, as opposed to all the media seems to be, gravitate towards bad news. We have these algorithms that just feed us more and more. And to do that, I thought I'd bring on somebody who literally wrote the book on good news stories. Chris Snyder is an old friend. He's from the wealth management business. Now he spends his time writing this fantastic blog, reminding us all of the good news in the world. And these are the things probably we're not hearing. That's not the ones that sell. This is the ones that'll make you feel good. So I thought before the Christmas season, we'd bring Chris on and, bring a positive light to the year and share some good news with us. So before I start, who is Chris? Who is Chris Snyder? In 1974, Chris was one of the pioneers of personal financial planning in Canada. This is, way, 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 way before I got here. He was the one who sort of developed this whole space. He co-founded the ECC Group. It's a personal financial advising group. It's one of Canada's first broad-based financial planning firms. And he stayed on as managing chair all the way until 2021. So it's a long and a decorated career, let's say. He was vice chair of the Canadian Association of Financial Planners. He designed and implemented the RFP, the Registered Financial Planner Program. He's wrote several best-selling books and hundreds of articles on personal finance. So in the financial planning world, he is a god. So, and I'm sure he'll agree with me once he gets on. Chris has volunteered for over 75 years, starting in grade 2 as the class treasurer of the Junior Red Cross. Since then, he's volunteered in numerous causes, different roles, different organizations, including 25 plus building trips in the developing world. And that's something we have in common. We've both done that over our career. Chris has authored a book about his volunteering entitled Creating Opportunities, a volunteer's memoir, and recently wrote a new book called 52 Plus Good News Stories, Hope in a Complex World. And this is based on his blog, Good News Stories. So that's why I thought Chris would be the perfect guy to get into the Christmas spirit, bring some happiness, some great stories to us. So Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Well, nice to be here, and nice to connect with you again, Chris.
Oh, it's been great. As I said, you're quite a legend in the wealth management space, and now, spending your time doing great things, making people happy. There's no greater cause than that, I can think. But maybe for our audience, maybe tell your story. How did you get here, Chris? You've had quite the career.
I guess I have to trace it way back to when I was young. My father died when I was a year old, and my mother moved back to Collingwood, where she was from, and that's where I grew up. And I did things that most kids in those days do. You play your sports. I was very active and joined Cubs and Scouts, and I must say that was a pivotal thing for me to do when I was young, because if you look at some of the things that they teach you in Cubs and Scouts and Guides, it's a pretty good foundation for life. And I did some volunteering. I love selling the Boy Scout apples and picking up things, paper and so on. I guess before the whole recycling thing came along. Anyway, then I went away to school. I went to a boarding school, and then I went to the U of T, where it was really almost, I wouldn't say the highlight of my life, but I certainly got involved in many things. Some of it was social. Schooling was okay, but it was getting involved in organizations and doing things. And I just absolutely loved doing all that. And yes, I'd done some volunteering when I was very young, but it was university that really set me apart. I went to law school for a year, and I came to, let's say, an early meeting of the minds. And I didn't like it. They didn't like my marks. And So anyway, I went to work for Noranda Mines in the sales corporation. I absolutely hated it. I was
That was not for you.
I was oh, it was not for me at all. I was used to doing things in my own and following my own shot. And anyway, so I found my way towards the insurance business, and one of the main reasons was it was sold to me on the basis that if you're developing your own business, and this is perfect for me because I knew one thing for sure: I wanted to carry on with all this volunteering.
Right.
So anyway, I started 10 years with Great West Life, which actually I guess is now part of Canada Life, which owns IPC. So it's
See,
sort of
full circle here.
come full circle. So I did fine. However, it wasn't sort of enough in just the insurance end. And my former partner Brian Anderson said, a part of me is just looking for a vacuum to fill.
Right.
And I looked around, and in those days, and to some degree, it still happens. The lawyer was giving some advice in one area, the accountant something else, the investment person something else, the insurance person something else. But the client was at the whim of the person talking to him, and nobody was pulling it together.
Right.
So that was, in my mind, the creation of the broad-based financial planning. And as you said, that was the genesis of ECC, and I did that probably 10 years after I joined Great West Life. So I was all set to go into politics. I'd been asked to run for council in Mississauga, where I lived, and then I thought, no, I'm gonna take this new adventure, and I ran with it. I ran hard with it. I joined up with a couple other people, and we built a reasonable organization. We didn't make any money, but we had a coast-to-coast operation. We got a bit, and I wrote several books on that. The first RSP book in Canada, I think. And then the group of us wrote a book called "It's Your Money," which the two of those books each sold over 100,000 copies. Which
Wow.
I had no idea. I must say I haven't done anything like that since. And then I wrote a book called "Teaching Your Children About Running." And anyway, we just developed our business, but we got to a stage where the business was running me, and I was running the business. So I stepped back and I said, so we cut all these, or many of these things out, and I stepped back and focused on working with the clients. And yes, we're still a business with other people. We had about 10 people, and we sort of associate with people across the country. Anyway, we took it from there, and all the time I continued with my volunteering. I joined Rotary, which is a
Great organization.
probably the largest volunteer organization in the world. Worked my way through it, and I sent out my last bill about, you said 2021, which I guess is about right. I did. I know it was just after I turned 80. So anyway, here I am. That's in a nutshell. And I was very active in association activities and promoting the whole concept of financial planning in the country.
Well, see, a legend. Quite the story. Again, one of the first people to develop that sort of holistic financial planning approach that's pretty prevalent today, but at the time it was it was something that that you had developed. Now you've been out of the business a little while now, so how has retirement been? I talked to a lot of people about succession planning.
I must say, before I retired, I thought this is great because I do one-on-one work in my business, and but then I do broader things trying to develop, the work we did in the developing world and so on. Anyway, I certainly missed that, and COVID came along, which like so many of us, we were I wouldn't say locked in, but we certainly didn't get out the way we did, and that seemed to be a bit of a milestone because I haven't had as much sort of one-on-one activity, but I've certainly been very busy writing. The blog, the book, was the founder of an organization called HIPPO, stands for Onion Indigenous Peoples,
Right.
which is now a coast-to-coast organization, a partnership between Indigenous people and Rotarians. And I just stepped down after 11 years as a chair in May. But I continued, with the friends and family and children, and so I've got pretty busy. One thing that I found that if I don't do something that's meaningful
Right.
or perceived as meaningful, I'm dead in the water.
You
And
got
it's
to
just,
always be doing
it's
something.
just who I am. Anyway, it's been generally pretty good.
Well, I think you're sort of what in my book, The Six Circles, the last circle is all about fulfillment. And I think you pretty much define sort of that fulfillment part that people search for. And fulfillment by, keeping busy, writing a very positive blog, helping people, starting a charitable organization. These are the things that, as much as business is important, and it is, it's not as important as some of the things that we can do in the lives that we can touch when we really put our effort into it and put our thoughts into it. And I certainly admire a lot of the things that you've done because of that, and you've kept busy through the whole thing. And I think that's fantastic. So enough about this business stuff. Let's talk about why you started to write this blog and what eventually ended up as a book. What sort of got you to that point?
Well, a good question, and I don't know about you, Chris. But I find in life sometimes things that turn out to be the most memorable and important are things you just sort of back into. Supposedly in the planning business, but all of a sudden it's there in front of you and say, hey, look, this is successful. I'd been writing really for a long time. I'm really not a natural writer, and I've often said that my old English teacher would roll over in his grave if he ever knew I was written a book. So, and we produce newsletters. One of them won a very prestigious award in the United States for financial newsletters. That goes back quite a few years ago. The last financial book I wrote was called "Be Smart with Your Money," which is really bringing. It's a little bit like the "It's Your Money" book, which was written a number of years ago. However,
Right.
this one had a lot of the emotional stuff, and it's emotions that really turn things on. And I was amazed. This is a bit of an aside. Remember reading with a couple of people who won a Nobel Prize in economics for bringing in the concept of using an emotion, how important it was
Right.
in financial decisions. And I thought to myself, I learned that my first week in the insurance business.
I was going to
And
say.
that was over 40 years before. So somebody should have nominated me for a Nobel Prize.
I was gonna
But
say,
anyway, and then I got into the other books, and we've been doing a lot of these trips to the developing world, primarily to build
Right.
schools, but there are a lot of offshoots from it. I wrote my book, Creating Opportunities. It was just my story. My publisher, Jim Hilborn, had said, you should write about all these things because number one is extensive, and number two, it was a little different than the
Right.
amount of people, particularly in the business world. But because I'd set my business up, and the financial advice business allowed me to do that,
Right.
which is to me that was a key thing. So I came back, and we had a trip to Cambodia, and I wanted to learn more about volunteering, and so I came back. And I started to write about the trip, and we had 14 people on it. Out of the 14, 8 of them were in their 70s. And I think we'd had 7 or 8 people who'd had about some run in with cancer or heart disease. We all got up at 5:30 in the morning, partly because it was very hot, and we finished about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So I thought, this is really fantastic. And people had paid their own way, and a lot of them had been there before. And I thought so that was my first blog, and I just kept going. COVID helped out a lot because there were a lot of good news stories coming out of COVID, even though every day you kept reading about all
Let's say there was some.
that had died. So that's how I got into it. And then eventually I thought, I do one of these roughly once a month. And I thought, we could nicely just take out all these things and put it together and repackage it, put it into a book. Well, it's a little more complicated now.
Yeah, as we all find out when we write a book. Yeah.
But nevertheless, that's how it all happened.
Oh, it's good. And to your point, the things that we do that we like, we back into. You sort of start one thing and, get a good idea, and then, it turns into a book, and here we are today. So let's this is why you're here. Let's hear some good news stories. It has been a crazy year, but as I said, if you whether it's social media or news outlets or whatever, they seem to gravitate. Their algorithms seem to gravitate about negativity, and it's not really the case all the time. It's a wonderful world that we have. So maybe Chris, share a couple of stories, especially as we get near
Yeah.
Christmas time. We need to make people
Well,
happy.
you said it's a wonderful world, and one of my favorite songs is Louis Armstrong's "That's a Wonderful World."
Absolutely.
I think that's a fantastic piece, and there's certainly lots of bad in the world, and I'm certainly not a Pollyanna, just thinking that everything is lovey-dovey and so on. And when you've got 8 billion people, it's in the world. Just put that into context. It's
Right.
inevitable. There's going to be a lot of bad things that happen, but there are also a lot of good things that happen, and because of way people react to it in the news media and how they portray it. And certainly the one item that's in the news a lot is climate.
Right.
And we're hearing that right now the climate conference is going on in Brazil. The big good news story, not primarily this year, but also before, was the development of alternate energy, different forms of energy systems. And the big one is solar. And when you look at it, it's a natural. We get sun not every day, and some countries get them more than others. But if we could harness that, which a couple of years, well, we could harness it, but the problem was to store it. And in the last couple of years, they've learned how to store it, and it's coming on big time. And regardless of what Trump has to say, the oil industry is being overtaken by alternate energy. And a large reason is because of the development of solar and the free enterprise system. And I maintain right from the start, we're not going to solve this climate thing unless you get the free enterprise system on board,
Right.
because of the power of free enterprise. And not that free enterprise is all perfect, but with the alternate energy, with the solar, and it's a Chinese who picked up on this. And as a matter of fact, in 2024, 92% of the new sources of energy that have come in the world have been alternate energy. And the Chinese have led the way, and they're flooding the market with inexpensive solar panels and also with batteries. They're by far and away the largest producer. And that plays out everywhere. But where it's really playing out is in the developing world. In sub-Saharan Africa, a tremendous number of people don't have electricity. They don't have a light switch they can go to. I remember doing an interview a number of years ago, and somebody was amazed that a school didn't have any lights, and we had to cut a hole in the roof and put some plastic up so that they had some light in the school. And that to me, that's the way a lot of sub-Saharan Africanism was. However, with the inexpensive solar that they're able to store, people are getting lights and electricity in their home. And just think, what if you close your eyes for a minute and just thought, if I don't have any lights, what would I do? Or
Right.
how you can plug in a machine, and all of a sudden these people are going to have it. And also what it'll do to the productivity of the country, being able to power inexpensively plants and things and so on. So that's making a huge difference. A little closer to home, and I've forgotten what state it is. This is in the U.S. One of the states changed from electric energy for the schools to solar energy. And there was enough money to give every teacher in that state $10,000.
Wow, really?
And if you know anybody that's a teacher,
Right.
people might think you're overpaid. Our three children are all teachers, so maybe I'm a little biased on it. But anyway, it's just absolutely amazing. The potential of solar. There's a writer in Calgary, but his name is Chris Turner, and he writes on energy and so on, and he's a very positive guy. But he said, we're not going to win this climate thing by just saying everybody's bad, by saying the oil companies are bad. What we have to do is create a better mousetrap.
Right.
And that's what's happening right now. And that, to me, is good news. And there's lots of hiccups, and we're never going to be, in my mind, without fossil fuels in some degree, but I think we can make great strides, or we are making great strides.
On that. I
But
like that.
but in terms of good news stories,
Yeah.
good news is really everywhere, all around us. Chris, you laugh. You've got a great laugh. That's a good news story.
That's a
So it is.
story.
It is a good news story. Smiling is a good news story. But actually, one of the stories in my book is the smiley. We've all seen the yellow, happy face, and that's how that started and the journey that's had. But it's a good news story, and the face isn't quite as good as a real smile, but nevertheless, that's a good news story.
But it still thinks when you
And-
see it, you usually
yeah.
smile. I know I do.
Yeah. And music, you and I both enjoy Dolly Parton, and that's almost a program in itself. That encounter, but this program is a good news story. You're trying to help people with their lives, with their career, and optimizing their potential, and so on. That's a good news story. And people in the financial advice business,
Yeah, absolutely.
they're delivering, and hopefully they're delivering good news through the well-managed portfolios and
Good advice.
and removing anxiety and making people feel better, and opening the life, because it's money that leads to a lot of that. So it's absolutely everywhere. But I'm just going to touch for a moment on. I'm just going to talk for a minute about Remembrance Day, because people will say, "What's good news about Remembrance Day?" It's about war, and war is bad, and war is bad or absolutely horrible. But I found, as I said right about this, a lot of good comes out of bad things.
Oh,
And Remembrance Day in Canada, Veterans Day in the United States, we take time. We listen to the veterans. I don't know if you saw any of it, but you couldn't help but be touched by the 100+ folks, men going back to Holland,
yes.
and people lined the streets with them and being thanked by the people over there. Some were there, but some were the grandchildren of these people. But to reflect on all of this and hear the stories of what people went through, it gives us time to sit back, and it's a big part of the deterrent, because we humans have got lots of bad qualities, and we've been fighting one way or another for many, many years. But to me, a Remembrance Day, it's a very important day, and it never ceases to bring tears to my eyes when I hear some of these stories and see them, and everybody's got a story about it.
It certainly is a
So-
time for reflection, because, the great world that we live in today is about a lot of sacrifice that was given way before us. And, as much as we sometimes take it for granted, I know I do, and I know a lot of people do, this is a time that you can reflect and look back and say, I wouldn't be here if some of these tragedies, and in some cases atrocities.
You're
continue.
absolutely right. And just to finish that comment off, to see pictures of young people who, they're only, say 10, 12, 15, they've never really been exposed to any of this.
Right.
And for them to sort of see some of this is important.
Yes. No, absolutely. So how do you actively look for good news? Like, this is a thing in a world where, as I said, it's, these media outlets, and now social media, of course, is everywhere, and people can't pick up their phone without some algorithm hitting them. How do you actually seek out these good news stories? Like, where do you find them?
Well, I just watch what's going on. Actually, every month I sit down and got a list that I've sort of compiled, or that I scratch my head and say, okay, what good news is of late? What's for example, Remembrance Day.
Right.
That's this past, and that, but it's really everywhere. But I think you can almost take any subject and say what's good about it, and if you think about it, and it's it's a mindset and getting yourself into it. And I think if you sat back and said, what is good news? And it's I guess a very simple definition is something that makes the world a little bit better.
Right.
And if we have that mindset, one of the things in Scouts was to do a good turn every day.
Right.
And it's the Scouts and Cubs and Guides have lost a lot of their appeal, but or at least for other things competing with them. However, if you just made a point of doing that, and action will breed more action, and you'll start to think about it, or somebody says something nice to you, and that makes me feel, well, that's good news.
Right.
And to me, develop that habit of saying good things. Yeah.
That's all sometimes people need. Like
Yeah.
a business coach or a coach of mine one time told me that, there's no such thing as positive and negative. There's only how you see it. You can make something positive or you can make it negative. It's all about mindset. And the people who, thrive usually have a very positive mindset. But if people are looking for negative things, generally they'll always find them if you're looking for it. So what are the benefits of hearing good news stories? Like, you've been certainly an advocate of this for a long period of time. Why would you recommend that people look for a good news story at least every day? That's what I would say.
Okay. That's yeah. I think that's a good thing. You clean your teeth in the morning, maybe after your mouth feels a little better. That's okay. Maybe that's the first good
That's
news
the
of the
first good news story.
I hadn't thought of that before, but maybe that's the way you do it. If you look at what's bad news generally is downer or depressing and so on.
Right.
Good news, on the other hand, can lift people up. It can make you feel better. It can make other people feel better. It moves things along, and I think as much as anything, it gives hope. And there's lots and lots of people who say without hope we'd be finished. And I just finished reading a book by Carol Off, who wouldn't say downplayed hope, but she did say what's important is to find something meaningful, which I had alluded to earlier. So
Right.
anyway, it's you feel better. If you leaders, for example,
Right.
if you've got a leader who's down on everything and all the time, do you really want to follow that person?
Right. Exactly. You want to be positive. Right? And to your point, people want meaning in their life. I've quoted on this podcast many times. My favorite book is Man's Search for Meaning by Vic
Yes,
Frank.
Snyder, yeah.
And certainly that has inspired me to always have meaning, always have a purpose, because if you have a purpose, there's always something you're looking forward to.
Yes, and I would say that's a book everybody should read.
Yeah.
So
Mandatory reading in my view.
It's an important book. We're all searching for that.
No, absolutely. So Chris, what's next for you?
Well, what's next? I guess keep on living.
Keep on going.
I don't know if I have another book in me, but I'm certainly continuing to write the blogs every month, and so I'll continue with that. And I am writing with the point of view that maybe could go into a book. I've been setting it up beforehand, so I don't have to go through so many rewrites.
Oh.
But I'm busy in Rotary, still doing stuff internationally. I'm not doing the sweat equity trips anymore. That's
Right.
a bit beyond me. But family and friends, those are things. Keep moving. I think that's a mantra of when you get to a certain age, is it just to keep moving? And but certainly children, and I have genealogy, in knowing sort of where you're from, I think is important. It's all of us, and I've got files and files of stuff that I've picked up from relatives and so on. I want to piece those together. My wife has done that a little bit with her family.
Oh, that sounds
And she knows more about my family, or my side of the family than I do. But nevertheless, and when I talk to grandchildren, I always try to tell them the story, and they probably just feel, here comes Grandpa with another story. But anyway, I think it's important that they know that just little things about their family.
where they came.
My mother certainly did that. I don't know whether she did it purposely, which I knew about some of the relatives, and actually that helps set the bar.
Yeah.
In our family,
Where
and it probably does in all families. Every family's got a horse thief, as they say, and every family got,
I guess we all have one of them at least.
yeah. So,
No, that's great, Chris. So I don't know if you listen to the show, but I always have my rapid fire questions. I have 3 questions I'm going to ask you, and you just have to, first thing that pops in your mind. And the first one is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I'm going to come back and just say, do something meaningful.
Do something meaningful. I think that is a great piece of advice. If you hang on to, if you always have meaning, you always have purpose, you always have motion, you keep going. What is the best book you've ever read?
I read a lot of books. I read probably 30 or 40 books a year.
So that's hard.
I-
What's the first one that pops into your head?
Well, the first one is the one that I just finished, and it's which is Carol Off's book on words. I can't even remember the name, but I just remember the book. I just finished reading it last night in bed. Anyway, Carol Off, and it's to do with words.
Hmm.
That's not the best book, but it's the one that comes to mind.
That's the one that
I think
came to
it's
your
an
mind.
excellent book on what words mean, and words like democracy and taxes
Right.
and kindness. And it's really an excellent book.
That sounds like a very excellent book. And lastly, Chris, how do you want to be remembered?
To make that I made the world a bit of a better place. That was an easy. That's an easy one.
I was going to say, I think that's easy because I think you've pretty much accomplished that. So you've done so much great things in your career. So thank you, Chris. It's been great, a great little chat. And so I always sum it up. So what did I learn out of this podcast? I learned that, sometimes we live in a world of hyper information, algorithms, and a lot of times these things gravitate to bad news. In a world where it is a great news. And sometimes we just need to take a break and realize the world is actually a wonderful place and it has a lot of great people in, and they're just trying to do their best. And we get sort of this opaque view sometimes, and sometimes we just need to take a break. We got to read a good news story. We got to think about the positive. And people like Chris here remind us that there are so many amazing stories out there. You just have to look for them. So thank you, Chris. So Chris, if somebody wanted to get your book or find your blog, how would they do that?
Okay, the blog is just to go online. I could just say Chris Snyder blog. That's probably the simplest thing.
The easiest one to find it. Yeah.
As far as the book is concerned, you could just say 52 plus good news stories. However, I think on this website you're going to put some links, and we've made some arrangements.
We absolutely will.
You can get it either in the book itself, or you can get a virtual version of it, and the links will come up. The book sells for $34.95, but we've made it available to people through the link at $30.
Oh, fantastic!
And something that we found is that people are buying this book to give to their family, to give to their clients, to give to their friends, and we've got a special price of 10 or more at $25, which is because you know how much it costs to
Absolutely.
book. That's
We certainly do.
you're getting pretty close to the break-even point.
To that whole margin thing, and since it's Christmas time, that would be a great Christmas gift for everybody. So this would be, and who doesn't want good news stories?
It's a good way to start the year.
Absolutely. We always started on a positive basis. So thank you very much. We have Chris Snyder, author of 52 plus good news stories. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Great to talk about it, and great to see you then, Chris.
Always great. No, as we talk about good news stories and we talk to Chris, I was thinking about, my book, The 6 Circle Strategy. And one of the 6 circles is, of course, the 6th circle, fulfillment. As we talk to Chris about his volunteering, about his writing, you can see a man who is fulfilled after a great career in financial planning. And this goes for all entrepreneurs. So if you want to get a copy of my book, just go to chrissreynolds.ca. And if you'd like to chat about some of the things you've learned in the book, just go to the show notes, hit the link, and we can have a virtual coffee together. I would love to chat.